My current obsession is making these awesome 3D printed artworks, and they might look like hueforge, but they're actually made using a free software within Bambu Studio. So you can make these too, and I'm going to show you how. First head to the Make a Lab tab of Bambu Studio, and then scroll down until you find Chroma Canvas, which is a free alternative to hueforge. Then you can upload your PNG, JPEG or WebP image. Then click Start to load it into the software. Initially it'll load in as black and white, however there are a bunch of colour presets to get started with. The purple-pink preset matches my original image quite well actually, so I can select that and even modify it if I want to. Just click Custom Palette. This brings up the list of filaments and what ratios are used, which you can obviously adjust to make the colour palette darker or lighter. Mine looks a bit better if I make it more purple and less pink. As this is in Bambu Studio, the filaments used are Bambu Lab filaments, specifically PLA Basic and Matte colours, so you can click on one of the filaments and swap it out for another colour. You can even search for the colour to make it a bit easier. You can add additional filaments to the colour palette too if you want to, which can perhaps give you more control over the result. If you're happy with your colour modifications, then click Confirm, and the colour palette will be saved as a custom palette. If you want to add depth and even more colours to your model, then you can separate objects by adding a foreground and even a midground. You can do this by object or by colour, but I prefer doing it by object. Then when you hover over certain parts of the image, you can see it trying to auto-select different parts of the image. It's definitely a bit janky though, but it's allowing me to separate the Gengar from the rest of the image. So now I can use a different colour palette for the foreground compared to the background. This is useful if you've got very colourful images, or if you want to highlight the main subject of the image. I don't want that here though, so I'm just going to delete the foreground separation. Once you're happy with the colours, you can then adjust the size of the model. You can change it to the printer you'll be using, but this doesn't really matter, especially if you're not using Bambu Lab printers. You can add holes too, so that you can hang it on the wall for example, but I don't like how this goes through the art itself, so I made my own frames which I'll show at the end of the video. If you're happy with everything, you can click Export, and choose your printer even though it doesn't matter. When you click Download or open in Bambu Studio, it'll appear monocolor until you slice it, and that's because it uses height range modifiers for the colouring. The slicing is very slow on these models, just so you know, but afterwards all the colours will be revealed. You can even toggle off the scenes to get a better idea of what it will look like. This is actually a much better colour palette than the one I ended up printing. The colours I used were a bit too muted. If you're looking for a more in-depth tutorial on using Chroma Canvas, then definitely check out my latest YouTube video. Anyway, muted colours aside, I still think it looks pretty cool, and as I mentioned earlier, I made my own frames for these. I made one which is like a picture frame for your desk. The artwork slides in like this, and then the top part fits on with magnets. The other version can hang on your wall using push pins or hooks. I prefer this version because it's a really cool way to decorate your walls. The files for both these frames are available on my Makeworld profile if you're interested, and hopefully now you can go make your own really cool artworks. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like and follow for more 3D printing tips and tutorials.